that now the GDP of the global economies is lower than the market cap of the stock exchanges. And broadly, what that means is the private sector has become bigger than the public sector. And that really positions what we have been advocating, that if the private sector is bigger than the public sector, then it's the responsibility of the private sector to finance development. And we have called it the global transformation through private sector-led development financing. The old model of aid is broadly dead. The old model of public sector development financing is stalled, is not doing well, and so the world needs to reposition. And you could imagine then what that would offer for well-positioned, focused financial sector, if it's the private sector that will finance development. That is how big the opportunity is. That's how we see it. But when we look at the economies we operate in, to come back home, you can have a global view, but act locally. We are very well positioned that we operate in economies that are powerhouses in the African continent. If you look at Africa's fastest, or the world's 20 fastest growing economies, 9 of them are in Africa. But if you look at those 9, DRC, which hosts our second largest franchise, is there. And I don't think there is any country in the world that has momentum to sustain growth for a long time like DRC. No country in the world is better positioned. It was only this week that the World Bank released the valuation of the Congo Basin forest and valued it at $23 trillion. That's bigger than the GDP of the US. That's just the basin. If you then valued the energy of Inga Dam, if you valued the mineral resources of DRC, that tells you the opportunity that equity positioning itself and having 24% of the market share in DRC means to us. So I'm contextualizing this position. If you look also closely, you see Rwanda towering very high. And that again helps to diffuse perceptions. If you asked from media, DRC and Rwanda, fastest growing economies in Africa, among the top 20 in the world. So there is perception and there is reality. And that is why we thought for the investors, we should bring the picture of reality and we could be able to address. Our managing director of Rwanda is in the house. Huntington, maybe you could, again, so we could lead a scene. What does that mean for us? It means the opportunity. I'm not sure why Uganda is missing here. I believe it should be there. But we are also happy that our aspirations to go to Ethiopia are affirmed. We can all see where Ethiopia is in the top 20 fastest growing economies in the world. And if we then look at, because it's one thing to grow, but is that growth having impact on the rise of the people? If you look at GDP per capita, because that is our per capita GDP growth rate, and it's not the number, the number is what it is, but what is the trend? And we see long term, these economies, GDP per capita, they are growing quite fast. We see Rwanda there leading the pack. We see Ethiopia second. We see DRC there. We see Uganda. we see Kenya growing faster than the GDP capita for the United States of America, despite the innovations. This is not innovation-led. This is real economy. And when growth is anchored on real economy, then it's very sustainable growth. So we see we're very well positioned. The markets we are in are pretty good. Even South Sudan this year are promising to reflect. But when this region is put into perspective to the global, and we look at the Eurobond dynamics around the world, we see what is happening to the yields of Kenya and Rwanda. And suddenly, the global economy has become attracted to the emerging markets, and particularly the East Africa. You may have a very good story, but if the story is not bought by the global economy, it remains just a story. But when it is bought by the global economy, then it facilitates trade and investment. And we can see the rally that we are seeing in terms of, and particularly for Kenya. And we are celebrating that, particularly the banking industry, the leading banks this year have registered above 50% appreciation of their value. And it's simply because there is a demand pool on the investment. And we are glad to be at that level. Then we look at the estimates of IMF in terms of GDP for 2025, because it's also important to look at the size of the economy. And if you look at that and then compare it with Africa, we are excited that the countries, again, we are in, make it to the 15 top economies. If you look at Kenya as the number 6 largest economy, and that is anchors. People should not really underestimate Kenya's position as the 6th economy. If it is surrounded by extremely fast-growing economies, that warmth will, of course, adhere to Kenya, and Kenya hopefully will be able to do. We look at Ethiopia, we look at Tanzania, we look at DRC, we look at Cameroon. What does it mean? It means majority of the economies we are in are some of the largest economies on the African continent. But it's not their standalone size that matters. It's that they form a bloc, the East African community. So when you look at the net trade of the East African economy, it's what it is because it's big economies. Uganda, DRC, Tanzania, Kenya, and we are glad our neighbor Ethiopia, and that's why we are attracted to Ethiopia. There is a rationalization of every strategic intent. And lastly is whether the government has the capacity to sustain that momentum, and can we dissuade the fears. And when you look at interest payments as a percentage of revenue, yeah, we talk of debt, but look at Kenya, look at which Kenya might be, and Uganda. They are within 30%, and we can see economies that are going all the way 60 to 80%. And this is IMF data, suggesting that the economies we are in may not have the capacity to ride over the shocks that they are all going through. The situation from data is not as bad as it looks. So that is the environment we are operating in. It can be better, but we comfort ourselves. It looks very good. We haven't had this kind of environment for quite some time. But we ourselves have been really preparing for ourselves for the future. But this macroeconomic environment has brought us the future very, very close and found us ready. Why are we ready for this environment? Because the last 5 years, we have focused on transforming ourselves. And if you look at the equity transformation journey, we have transformed strategy, we have transformed build our strategy, our governance structure, our customer offering, our systems and processes, and our people. And I want to really thank our customers for their patience and understanding during this transformation. When we were changing systems, we knew of instability of our systems. That is behind us. When we were making our human capital fit for purpose, there was pain. That is behind us. When we were looking at customers offering, we really involved our customers with focused group discussion. What type of products would you wish to have? And when we were building the governance structure, it looked like a long wait. And I'm really glad that we have been able to reach this stage. And this has really positioned us pretty well in terms of governance structure. If you just looked at the governance structure, that is what the transformation has made us look like. It's no longer the Kenyan bank. It's a financial group that has a technology company with an MVNO license, with a PSP license for payments, with e-commerce capability, using APIs, and with significant digital lending capability. That is now built. The systems have been bought. If you look at the bank, we've really extended the bank into, and the more important thing is not the number of countries we are in. What is important is that we are significant and systemic in every country we are in, positioning us for cross-border trade. When you look at the insurance group, we now have the full suite of insurance licenses. We can insure life, we can insure health, and we can insure wealth. And there is no better position. Lastly, is that we are able to work with the communities and ensure nobody is left behind through our foundation in areas, social innovations, in entrepreneurship, in agriculture, social protection, education, energy and environment, and health. While most people see this as the generosity of the equity group, we see it as the investment of equity group in communities. We want to use the position that we have to capacitate and risk every person who has a dream through entrepreneurship training, guarantees, so that they can participate. They can ensure their health, they can ensure their life, they can ensure their wealth after they have created them using banking tools and doing it so conveniently because of the technology capability that has allowed us now to offer 24-hour banking and compressed distance and time, wherever you are, whatever time it is. And that ability to bring convenience and ease using technology that is tailor-made to the needs of the people, including those who are being reached by the foundation. Seeing it not as different, but seeing it as a two-engine model, social and sustainability and economic model, a three-engine. That transformation has been long coming, but we are glad to say it is lady in a position that we could. And that is why we unveiled the dream, the African Recovery and Resilience Plan, and say now that we are ready, we could be able to set ourselves huge ambitions. And we set what looked like a dream that can never be made to become true, that we will be home to 100 million customers by 2030. we are glad that the universe has conspired to make that possible. The microeconomic environment is ready, is enabling, and the transformation of equity has made it ready for that opportunity. So as you see, we have said the best way of looking after people is focusing on food security.